Part 1 in this series of videos exposed my landlord Bob Ors as a German masquerader murderer and why he was able to deceive me for 14 long years. Parts 2, 3, and 4 videos provided proof of his sadistic, wild nature from complaints via email that document my dealings with him and how he has made attempts on my life. This Part 5 video provides additional details about my dealings with him from emails of complaints sent to him and his site managers and what he deserves as punishment. Hello friends, this is Unmasked Truth with Harmanjit Saini, where I provide a unique analysis of world events based on the unmasked truth that after surrender, Germany continued World War II clandestinely and became a killing machine. I also provide true news that you will find nowhere else. In part 1 video, I explained how I came into contact with Bob Ors and his in-laws when I moved to Tampa, Florida from Milwaukee, Wisconsin in USA, as we were all members of the same church and attended weekly church services together. I also explained how I became a tenant in one of the apartment complexes owned by Bob Ors. Then I explained why I did not want to expose him as a German masquerader and a murderer to avoid being troubled more by him in retaliation. But my sources urged me to expose him. Then I explained why I was deceived for nearly 21 years about his true sadistic, murderous nature. The reason is that he appeared to be a very devout Christian as a member of my church. When I experienced trouble as his tenant, I did not attribute it to him but to German masquerader national leaders who I thought were forcing my neighbors and others with threats to trouble me and could not think Bob Ors as a Christian could do such things. In parts 2, 3, and 4 videos, I chronologically described the experiences I've had as Bob Ors' tenant for 14 years with documented proof from the emails I sent to complain about the harassment. This part 5 video provides further proof of his wickedness for the mistreatment and abuse I suffered. I will also explain the diabolical cunning he employed to use others to trouble me without suspecting him of orchestrating all the troubling events. In part 6 video, based on another incident, I will describe what punishment he deserves. In these videos, I have described many of the German and German masquerader methods that are used to victimize, trouble, and murder people. If one suffers any such tactics in one's dealings with person, there is a good chance that person is a German masquerader or one who adheres to their philosophies. However, they use another extremely successful method which has deceived me for decades while still making me believe they are my very best friends. For decades, I was put through the problem of people communicate with me through positive nods that mean yes, but I was left to come up with my own explanation of what question was that yes answer for. I have to keep thinking about what they were trying to communicate with me, perhaps for many days, but they would never communicate with me with words. I also felt that they were my friends who were trying to communicate something positive or important to me for my own benefit. But to my horror, I've discovered over the past 2 to 3 years that all of them were German masqueraders lying to deceive me. Most of them, in fact, made attempts on my life. Almost all with German names were trying to communicate to me with nods that they were Jews when they were lying. They were actually fulfilling the prophecy in Revelation 3 verse 9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie, because they are actually Germans. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before your feet. Thus, the warning is that if someone communicates with you only through nods, positive or negative, but never with words, do not trust that person. He's trying to deceive you, do you harm, and is probably trying to murder you. That person is a German masquerader or their ally who has learned such methods. That's why one sees so many with German names all over the United States masquerading as Jews. They are fulfilling this prophecy. By doing so, they have been very effective in looting the real Jews and harm them in other ways. Now, Attempts at murder. I had to send a very disturbing email on October 7, 2022. Bob, while I am out for the feast, I request that no one enter my apartment, particularly the exterminator or the pest control person to spray for bugs. Of course, maintenance may enter only if there is an emergency. The reason for this email is that for a few months, Bob changed the pest control person. I suspected that these changes were being made so that they would apply poison in my apartment rather than actual pest control spray. After applying the pest control chemical, one actually told me that what he had applied was poison. There is absolutely nothing I could do about it, but I believed that he was telling the truth. I could not immediately pack up and leave. I am sure some of the pest control people have actually used poison at other times as well. But God has protected me. This is another way attempts have been made on my life by Bob Orrs. I did not think of including this email of November 30, 2021 in my message until I just realized the sinister nature of the event. Here is the email. Bob and Sandra, thank you very much for the Thanksgiving cookies. Very thoughtful and kind of you. You owe me 12 more tins for the years you forgot. Just kidding. Just 1 year out of the 14 years I've been Bob's tenant that he has given me a box of cookies as a Thanksgiving gift. Not knowing the kind of person he is, that box of cooking, now knowing the kind of person he is, that box of cookies was poisoned. This was another attempt on my life. He knows my financial condition. When we go for our church's annual Feast of Tabernacles, sometimes we end up at the same feast site. Not once has Bob or the others of the Fike clan taken me out for a meal. Even with my financial condition, I always manage to take some person for a meal and pay for them. That is the true nature of Bob Orrs and rest of the Fike clan. They invited me for the night to be much observed dinner after the Passover because it was an easy way to make attempts on my life. Perhaps Bob was trying to have me move out of the apartment. The reason why I don't want to move is that it will take me at least 2 to 3 years, 2 to 3 weeks to move. Then I will almost certainly be troubled in the new place and be forced to move again within a few months. There is another advantage to me in me exposing my landlord. Earlier, I considered him to be my friend, but now I know he is one of my deadliest enemies. And now he knows that I know that and will be very when he tries to trouble me again. Perhaps our side has already taken care of the matter in some way so that problems I have to face now will be reduced. Now, Bob has caused me tension through financial hardship. He has my earnings statements, which is only my social security benefits, less than the average payments per person, and small amount of interest I earn. These earnings cover only about 50% of my monthly expenses. I have to dip into my savings to meet the rest of the expenses. If I maintain my current basic survival standard of living, I will run out of savings in 10 to 11 years. Thus, Bob knows that if he can find ways to take more of my monthly income or force me to spend it in some ways, he will massively increase my financial distress. He has done that for the time that I have been his tenant. I will repeat what I stated in part 2 video. I believe Bob Orrs has been discriminating against me from the very beginning by charging me higher rent than anyone else with a similar apartment. I rent a 1 bedroom apartment. There is no washer, dryer, or a dishwashing machine in the apartment. The kitchen is cramped, only 63-inch wide. I came to know the tenants in the adjoining apartment at 5009, a 2 bedroom apartment with a full kitchen cum dining space, a washer, dryer, and a dishwasher. The tenant told me that they were paying $565 a month per rent, while my rent was $535, and I have no washer, dryer, or a dishwashing machine. When I started renting, there was a notice on the office door, which for many months or years, which advertised that studio, one bedroom, and two bedroom apartments were available for rent for $375 per month, or $465 per month, and $550 per month, respectively. It seems I've been paying approximately 15% higher rent than other tenants in similar apartments in the apartment complex. Ours is affordable income housing. Currently, I pay $575 per month, plus water and sewerage charges around $47 to $49 per month. Next, I mentioned that for more than 8 months, I was subjected to the anguish of air being taken out of my tires. Bob expected me to have the tires inflated at the cost of 75 cents or $1 each time. I solved the problem by buying a tire inflating gadget from Walmart. In this regard, an attempt to harass me by taking air out of my tires was made again. My email of July 23rd, 2023 states, Bob, Stephen, and Sandra, I had this problem also when Elaine was the manager. Someone is taking air out of my tires. It happened for many months or more than a year when Elaine was the manager. It has started happening again. I checked the air pressure yesterday and it was 20 psi on the front driver's side tire and 25 psi in all the others. It's a massive problem and creates tension as well as waste of time. I have to check the tire pressure every time I want to drive and fill in air if the pressure is low. These are brand new tires with only about 2,000 miles on them. I hope the problem can be taken care of and the culprits found. Fortunately, the problem ended quickly. Perhaps the reason is that our non-Masquerader site threatened the culprit, or perhaps threatened Bob Orrs. I've already mentioned that the site manager, Elaine Wade, had her granddaughter deliberately drive her car into mine. That caused my car insurance rates to go up. I, as a retired single person who drive only about 3,000 to 4,000 miles per year, have paid the highest rate of $1,377 in car insurance for 6 months. My next rate was around $1,580 for 6 months in September 2023, which forced me to try and switch insurance companies. The rate has come down to just under $1,000 for 6 months after changing insurance company. That rate is still sky high, but having worked with a car insurance company for about 20 months, I know that introductory rates are deliberately kept low to acquire new customers, but then rise steadily every 6 months. Then, site managers encouraging kids to play around my car with the intention of damaging it have been other attempts to increase my car insurance if there were any claims. Fortunately, there have been no such claims so far. In 2017, when the City of Tampa and City of St. Petersburg's sewers was overflowing capacity due to much increased water usage, to reduce water consumption, the cities decided to levy additional charges. Bob Orrs passed on the cost of additional charges to his tenants beginning in October 2017. My first bill was $31.79. I suspected him of overcharging me. I immediately thought of ways to reduce my water consumption. I decided not to flush my toilet every time I went to pee, just twice a day. Then, after wetting myself, I closed the shower when I lathered myself and then opened it to wash off the soap. I believe I was still being overcharged at between $25 to $31 per month. Then, beginning December 2018, the bill reduced to $17 to $19 per month till January 2020. Then it began to creep up again till by July 2020 it jumped to between $30 to $37 till December 2021. Then from January 2022 it has ranged from $41 to $52 per month, with the more common amount being above $46 per month. Then around July 2022, I inquired from my neighbor about his monthly water bill. I actually saw his bill of $20 per month, and then he told me sometimes it was around $27 per month. From the way he answered the question, the bill is probably closer to $20 per month most of the time. He was also single, but sometimes had his girlfriend visiting him for some days. Thus, I have proof that Bob Ors has been overcharging me for my water bill, most of the time double the actual charges. He has been discriminating against me right from the very beginning that I became his tenant, first by overcharging me for rent. Now, here is an example of my emails to him complaining about my sky high water bill. My first email complaining about the water bill is dated June 9, 2020. My water bill has been constantly going up. I am taking the same water consumption reduction measures. Then email of June 20, 2020. My water consumption since December 2018 has not changed except in a month or two. It may have been slightly higher when I have usually waxed my car or cleaned and applied oil to my air filter. Those months it was usually $1 to $2 higher. Here are my monthly bills from 12/2018 onwards. $17, 17, 17, 18, 16, 17, 19, 20, 20, 22, 19, 21, 10, 19, 21, 22 for March 2020. Then 23, 24, 26, 36. My water consumption has not changed. I don't think there has been a rate change by the water department. There has been a creep up in the bill since March 2020. It is not justified by my actual water usage. Then email of March 19, 2021. Bob, this seems to be getting ridiculous. My water bill has gone up from $32 to $35 for this month. I've not heard that the city has raised its water rates. My water usage has not changed. I continue to conserve water as I have done in the past. The bill seems to be arbitrary. I won't be surprised if at the end of the year I start getting a $40 bill. Please look into this. An email of August 23rd, 2022. Bob, every month I have to howl because of my water bill. For this month it is $48. I will not be surprised if it crosses $50 next month, and then by the end of the year it is close to $100. My consumption has actually gone down slightly as I now no longer drink tap water and drink only bottled water. Please look into this and instruct Sandra yourself. For a couple of months the bill actually crossed $50. I was paying this amount when my neighbor's bill was around $20 or up to a maximum of $27, when besides him, his girlfriend stays with him sometime. For the past year or so, my water consumption has actually reduced because I no longer take a shower daily and take it about 4 times a week. The reason is that my body does not process fats and oils well. Therefore, to prevent losing body oils, I shower less. Despite all this, my bill has kept increasing. The site manager, Sandra Ashley, uses her own ways to try and force me to spend money. I like to keep my door open in the morning for about an hour to let fresh air in. Inevitably, mosquitoes, bugs, and other flies would enter, and I suffered from mosquito bites. Then I saw someone had a screen mesh door cover to keep mosquitoes and insects out. I immediately bought one, but then I noticed that the cover had been torn. I have never seen Sandra do it, but once she came to my door to deliver the monthly water bill, just before I opened the door, I heard a tear and Sandra's laughter. That's why I'm confident she has been responsible for tearing to cover regularly. Mosquitoes started entering in again. I realized that each time there was a tear in the cover, if I went and bought another one for about $15, In a few days, it would be torn again. I would end up buying new ones, 3 to 5 or more sometimes each summer. Therefore, I started patching up the tears with duct tape. But new tears keep appearing so that the cover is almost in tatters. But this is another type of harassment I suffered, which is also designed to keep me under tension financially. Now, my email of November 8, 2022, with the photo attached, provides evidence of another horrible event. Bob, you were leaving in your van when I came out of the apartment to go to the garbage dump. I tried to stop you, but you did not notice. I wanted to show you what someone left at my apartment, but I took a photo, a copy of which is attached. Now, I've complained before that someone is entering my apartment without permission. I explained that I found some items missing on 2 occasions and spent hours looking for them. Then, months later, they mysteriously appeared on my sofa in plain view and in my closet in main view, where I would have checked many times. Yesterday, I noticed that 3 milk cartons stacked on each other were not moving close to the wall, so I checked. To my horror, I found an open package of about 2 pounds of beef with maggots crawling in it and literally 200 to 300 maggot eggs. It was a horrifying sight to behold. Attached photo provided the visual evidence, which was also shown to the site manager Sandra Ashley and maintenance man Sal. I noticed that I do not buy that kind of beef. I buy it in small pieces called stew meat. I have receipts on my phone to prove it. So someone put that open package of beef there. Sandra is the only one who has the keys to all apartments. I cannot reach any other conclusion than that she has been giving the key to my apartment for people to enter in and do the kind of things I've described. This is pure harassment. Elaine had harassed me as long as she was the manager. Sandra is using much more vile methods to harass me. If all the eggs had hatched, my apartment would have been crawling with maggots. I do not cherish the thought of having to move. It took me 15 days to move in. It will take me the same amount of time to pack and move out. Then I face the prospect of being harassed again from the very beginning and being forced to move again. You perhaps cannot imagine how difficult it is to take all this. I've suffered this kind of harassment for most of the years I've been in the USA. I had hoped my stay in your property would be different, but it has not turned out to be that way. I hope you can do something about it and relieve me of the constant suffering. Thanks. I suspect this was the work Pete or Ralph P. Berry, a black man who had recently moved to Unit 5007 from another unit, that's one unit away from mine. Pete was a murderer who probably cremated an adult and or child alive in an electric crematorium. When I moved into my apartment in July 2009, the white woman in Unit 5009, my neighbor, was his girlfriend and sex partner. That woman was murdered, I believe, because she gave me poisoned food. After Pete moved into Unit 5007, I have seen white women visit him at 1 to 2 a.m., presumably to have sex with him. That was Pete's reward for the murder he committed. Pete was also not allowed to drive or even own a motorized cycle. That must have been his punishment for troubling someone who constantly damaged their car or deflated the tires. When he moved into Unit 5007, Pete harassed me a great deal by making unnecessary noises when passing by my apartment. In the incident described in the email, Pete must also have been given the key to my apartment to by Sandra Ashley. He placed the maggot-infested piece of beef in my apartment, and then Pete also must have put poison in my food in the refrigerator or cereals. Soon after that incident, Pete was apparently locked up in his apartment. He was not allowed to go out, though he went out occasionally. Sometimes some women in the apartment complex brought him food. Essentially, Pete was put to death a few months ago after he poisoned my food, as the woman in the Unit 5007 was murdered after giving me poisoned food. The most likely reason Pete was forced to stay in his apartment was that he had conspired with other tenants to the apartment complex to keep me locked up in my apartment by taking their guns out whenever I walked around and shoot me dead. My tenants do not even today. I used to walk every day in the morning for about 20 minutes. At least 3 to 4 attempts were made every day to shoot me dead. When I realized what was happening uh, a few weeks ago, I started walking in the vacant lot nearby and no longer walk in the apartment complex. But I am certain some days people will attempt to take shots at me, but God continues to protect me. Now, German masqueraders are not satisfied merely in impoverishing people. They like to inflict as much pain and suffering on them as possible. Bob Ors does not like to be left behind on that score. He installed a toilet seat in my apartment that is the most uncomfortable one ever designed, no doubt deliberately. I endured the discomfort for 14 long years, cursing many times as I used it. But when I discovered that Bob Ors was a German masquerader and a murderer, I decided not to accept the situation any longer and asked that the toilet seat be changed. It led to some nasty exchanges with his son Stephen and his attempt to intimidate me. Gave me a notice that I was in violation of the rental agreement, and here are the two emails describing the whole incident. First, an email of October 13, 2023. Bob, I've endured the uncomfortable toilet seat for more than 14 years now. Whoever designed it seems to have deliberately designed it for maximum discomfort during bowel movement. It is getting more uncomfortable as one gets older. Then I looked at a toilet seat that Saul showed me in the pool room. He had experienced a similar seat at the hotel I stayed in during the feast this year, which was perfect. That would provide the relief I need for my discomfort. Therefore, I requested that the seat be replaced. Thank you very much. Then Bob replied, please request through office. Thanks. Email applied November 8, 2023 to Stephen Ors. Stephen, sorry for getting back a little late about the toilet seat replacement issue, since I am responding after more than 10 days and I have had enough opportunity to try the new seat. I have found it comfortable enough and acceptable under the circumstances. It's not perfect. The reason is that the seat thickness is only half an inch, which is less than half the normal seat thickness. Sometimes it wets the bottom. But since this was the kind of seat you had in stock with you, all the other tenants get similar seats. It's acceptable because I cannot expect you to treat me differently by supplying me with a plush seat. Now, I managed a request via email to your dad, Bob Ors, and apartment manager Sandra Ashley on October 13, 2023, to replace the toilet seat, which was very uncomfortable. A couple of days earlier, I had discussed the issue with the apartment complex maintenance person Sal, and he had shown me the seat from those in stock in the tool shed that you normally install in the instructions. I told him that seat looked good and that I would like my current seat to be replaced with that one. I told him I know the procedure and that I would request a replacement with an email to Bob and Ashley, which I did on October 13, 2023, as already stated. I waited patiently for Sal to replace the seat because I see him coming almost every day fixing other apartments to make them get ready, to make them rent ready. A couple of days later, he came to my apartment with a seat that was already in stock, which he had shown me earlier. He found that the seat he had was smaller than the toilet seat size in my apartment. So I waited patiently for him after another 10 to 11 days, thinking that you probably don't go out and make your necessary purchases. Then on October 26, 2023, during my morning walk, I spotted Sal in the tool shed and Sandra close by and asked him if the replacement toilet seat had come. He told me that the seat I had was the kind that management puts in the apartments and that's what they can give. That clearly implied that either I could use the keep the one I had, or it would be replaced with another one of the same kind. Obviously, that was not true because Sal had already showed me the kind of seats you had in mind, which is what I had asked him to replace my current seat with. He did not show me the seat that was in the tool shed that would fit my room or even tell me what a new one had been purchased. His answer made me angry for three reasons. The sight I had endured for 14 years. The seat I had endured for 14 years was very uncomfortable. From what Sal told me, I guessed that a new seat might have been purchased and was the same kind that I wanted replaced because that's what management supplies. But he had already showed me a different kind of seat in stock, which was the kind I wanted. So I told him, please don't give me that crap. This was said in a normal tone. He again repeated his answer, to which I replied in the same way in a slightly louder tone. There was no shouting or yelling by me at any time, and I did not use any word kind of threatening or abusive language. My tone was just a little louder than normal, but nothing that could be considered angry. I believe I then asked if you were proud. Sandra then called you on the phone and informed you that about our conversation with Sal, and you told her that you would come. You came about an hour later to my apartment with Sal with the new seat in hand. When I saw the seat, I told you that this is the kind of seat I wanted, as it looked familiar to the one Sal had showed me about 2 weeks earlier in stock in the tool shed. If Sal had showed me the new seat that had been purchased, there would have been no need for me to exchange angry words with him. I would have simply requested him to go ahead and replace my old seat. But his telling me that the seat I was replaced by the kind that management provided would have aroused anyone's ire in the situation, especially when it was not the truth, because he had already showed me the seat which is kept in stock to replace broken and damaged seats. Then you too started saying that you don't replace toilet seats unless they are broken or damaged, and that if I wanted the seat replaced, I would have to buy the seat and they would replace it for me. I understood that to imply that you would charge me for the new seat. I replied that it was an badly designed, extremely uncomfortable seat that does not allow proper bowel movement, and others and other units in the apartment complex do not have such a toilet seat. You then asked me why I had not requested that the seat be replaced in past 14 months. I'll give you that answer now. We attended the same church, and I have been doing so for 20 years since I came to Florida. In 2009, when I wanted to move near my place of work, I asked your dad if he had an apartment for me to rent. That's how I became your tenant. Over the past 14 years, I've endured a lot of abuse from other tenants. One of your previous maintenance staff, a cousin of yours, David Fike, your previous apartment manager, Elaine Wade, with my eyes being put in danger with a snake living below the deck in my apartment for months. All that is well documented in my emails to your dad. But I endured all this because I thought we were brothers in Christ as we attended church together. That's why I did not complain about the toilet seat, though I was cursing whenever I used it. But then I came to the realization that our family's mindset is different and that you had deliberately allowed me to be abused and troubled through my entire 14 years as a tenant. Now there is no personal relationship between us, but a simple landlord and tenant relationship. Coming back to the toilet seat, Sal then replaced the seat in the presence of both of us. Later, I asked that the old seat be kept in case it was needed to demonstrate how uncomfortable it was. You said that you've already disposed of it. You also said that you would not charge me for the new seat to imply that you were doing me a big favor by not doing so. Then you threw another bombshell when you started accusing me of disrespecting staff and that you would not tolerate showing any disrespect to staff. It was a blatantly false accusation because I had shown no disrespect to staff but had only said words not in a particularly angry tone that anyone would use who has been misled and had merely asked to cure a problem that he had endured for 14 years. Then you stated that I was in violation of the rental agreement and that you could write me up and put it in my file. Such irritating response required annoyed me further. Then I refuted your blatantly false accusation in a slightly louder tone, which could in no way be characterized as shouting, threatening, or my language as abusive. I also told you that if Sal had shown me the great seat when I saw him, there would have been no misunderstanding of any kind, and there would have been no issue at all. But you kept repeating your accusation, and that disrespect of staff will not be tolerated, and stating that I was in violation of the rental agreement to force an angry response from me. Then I merely touched you, and you agreed to end the conversation. You told me not to touch you. You know that was not a threatening gesture or physical misconduct of any kind. I stand around 5 feet 2 inches tall and weigh around 107 to 109 pounds. You are probably 5'10 to 11 inches tall and weigh probably 200 to 220 pounds. You know I could not have been a physical threat to you in any way. My purpose was merely to get you to leave as the seat had been replaced and I had heard enough of your accusations repeated a few times over and did not want to hear them repeated ad nauseum. When you were leaving, you still did not stop repeating your blatantly false accusation and threatening to write me up and put the notice in my life. I probably touched you again to nudge you out of the apartment. Then, about 10 minutes later, you came with another bombshell. You gave me a legal 7-day notice of non compliance with the opportunity to cure in a form provided to you by your lawyers. The notice stated, you are notified that you have violated your rental agreement and of Florida law as follows: verbal and physical misconduct. Disrespect will not be tolerated. Your accusations and notice remind me of a story about the former dictator Muammar Gaddafi of Libya. He kept a bodyguard of women in the belief, right or wrong, that any would be assassins would not attack him if they had a few women first. Then one day the dictator was discussing something with a cousin who raised his voice in front of the dictator. One of his female bodyguards killed his cousin because he raised his voice in the presence of the leader. That's the kind of accusation you leveled at me, but falsely, about disrespecting your staff by raising my voice, and then you gave me notice that I was in violation of my rental agreement. The copy of the rental agreement I have the copy of the rental agreement contains no such clause. I did not respect your staff, or there is no obligation on me to not raise my voice slightly to express my displeasure when I am not given correct information and being not being correct information and being misled to provoke me to react angrily. Let me repeat that. I did not disrespect your staff, and there was no obligation on me to not raise my voice slightly to express my displeasure when I am not given correct information and being misled to provoke me to react angrily. I was not at all happy when you handed the notice to me. By that time, I had sat once on the seat to test it and did not find it very comfortable. After giving me the notice, you verbally threatened me again that if I repeated the same conduct, my lease would be terminated. I told you that we had gone over it already and that you have deliberately mistreated me like the way you've done uh, by giving me an uncomfortable toilet seat again. You again told me, as you had said earlier, that I would have to get my own seat and Sal would put it in for me. Of course, later I actually used the seat and I found it comfortable enough and acceptable, as I stated in the beginning, because that's the seat you gave to all the other tenants in the complex. It seems the whole incident was manufactured to get an angry response from me by not giving me the complete true information. Then you gave me a notice based on false premises. Anyway, I've been a model tenant for 14 years under less than model circumstances, borne out by my many complaints via email and others given verbally. I will continue my model behavior as a tenant as long as I remain one, but will lodge complaints when I am subjected to unbearable circumstances. Such are the dealings I've had with Bob Owers and all his team members. However, I have to do a part 6 video to include another event that illustrates what punishment Bob Owers deserves and summarize all the videos. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please continue to watch my videos on important world events, World War III watch, politics, international business, how Bible prophecy is playing an important role in world affairs, advice on health and medical problems, and much more for in-depth and insightful analysis. Please also subscribe to my YouTube and Facebook channels Unmasked Truth with Harmanjit Saini to view and get information on the latest videos.